For a while now, the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, has been spouting claims that Elon Musk and his new platform X, they're both anti-Semitic. This, of course, is hurting the personal brand and the brand of X. And so what Elon Musk has decided to do is he's decided to file a lawsuit of defamation, a defamation lawsuit against the ADL, which is classically, they've been against defamation. They advocate against defamation. They go after people, after entities, after corporations who are defamatory. So you still have your free speech, but defamation is civil. So if you're saying something that is untrue, it's false, you're ruining someone's reputation, which ends up ruining their credibility or their livelihood, this is what the ADL is for. Now, what the ADL has done is they have aligned themselves with the, I always say, the administrative state within the US, but there are also other Western powers that are, they have their own bureaucracy, and the ADL has aligned itself with that in terms of ideology. And so what they've been doing is they've been spouting over and over again. I've seen this for the past few weeks just on X. They've been saying that Elon Musk and his platform are so heavily anti-Semitic. And if you look at other places, I don't want to give any names, but there are tons of articles from other news organizations, other news companies that spout the same lie. X is anti-Semitic. Elon Musk is anti-Semitic. There's so much hate on X. Now, as far as I have seen, now this is a personal anecdote, but also Elon Musk has put out data regarding what's actually happening on Twitter, on X, on the platform. There is actually less hate than before. There's more engagement. More people are jumping on the platform. But because of institutions like the ADL, who are essentially, they are defaming Elon Musk. So the Anti-Defamation League is participating in defamation. This is why Elon Musk is suing them. They have been participating in defamation against Elon Musk, against the platform, because they have aligned themselves to push down X because it is hosting a type of free speech ideology. It's not truly free speech. It's not absolute. And I have critiqued Elon Musk for that. He has not allowed certain people back on the platform. He's allowed a lot of other people back on. And there are also some topics and some issues that you cannot talk about on Twitter, on X, and that is a huge contradiction to the actual free speech ideology. Now, there are various reasons why Elon Musk is not fully embracing free speech. Maybe he's coerced, maybe he's not. Maybe he understands at some level that to operate X, to operate maybe his other businesses, he has to have some threshold of what is acceptable, and maybe he pushes that threshold over time of what becomes acceptable as culture sways more and more towards, let's say, the Constitution or a libertarian founded ideology. But when we evaluate the situation, when you have a classic institution like the ADL, where they're supposed to go after entities, companies, individuals who are defaming other people because you're ruining someone's credibility, their livelihood, their reputation, all that. That's like everything to a person. Your labor, your efforts, they go into your work. And if you're being defamed with false information and people start removing their business, this is exactly why the ADL was founded, but they're doing the exact same thing to Elon Musk in this situation, and they are also doing it to other people in general. So Elon Musk, he's had enough of this. He understands that X is down 60% in terms of revenue. That's a huge number, 60%. And he has claimed that the ADL is responsible for 50% of X's decline in terms of like the value of the company, and therefore the damages are in the billions. Even if he's using a conservative estimate of, let's say they're responsible for 10% of that 50% of damages, it's still billions of dollars. So I don't know how this will turn out. Obviously, you have multiple agendas here. This is actually a fairly simple agenda where Elon Musk, he's for free speech. He has a platform. He purchased it. He can't go fully free speech because either he's coerced or not. And he has decided that he has to play a strategic game here. Maybe he's fully awake. Maybe he's not fully awake. He's partially awake. He understands at the core how important free speech is, but he can't fully utilize it because there's still an Overton window of what is acceptable in culture, because you can have the legal standard, but we often adjust the legal standard even though it's it's unchangeable. We often adjust it based off the cultural identity of a nation or of a country, what people are thinking, and that relates to the certain platforms that we have accessible to us. So on X, he's trying to push it. But at the same time, you have other entities who don't like what Elon Musk is doing. They don't like that there's a new platform that is taking more market share, it's taking more viewers, it's getting more engagement, it's potentially, or has the potential to make a lot of money in the future. They don't like that. And so they have to slander Elon Musk. They have to slander this new platform. They have to say that there's a bunch of hate. And this is all part of free speech. So these news organizations, like a lot of people take it at face value when these credible news organizations say that there's hate going on X, or there's anti-Semitism going on X. And by the way, anti-Semitism, people generally, from a connotative point of view, they use it to refer to Jewish folks, but Semites are people in the Middle East. So even Arabs are Semites, technically speaking. But people have overused that term so much to the point, like with calling someone transphobic or racist, it's so watered down. People, it doesn't hold the same meaning as it once did 5-10 years before. But even these quote unquote credible institutions, these credible news agencies, they have free speech. They can slander people. I mean, they can slander people, but there are consequences. There's defamation suits. That's the consequence. But they can say what they want, or they can play a semantic game. So technically, it's not untrue what they're saying, but it's not accurate. And they can distort the reality around them for their viewers, for their audience, and say bad things about other platforms who are anti-establishment. They're going against what the status quo wants, right? There's a certain status quo, the administrative state, that is not just the federal government, although primarily yes, but they work in collusion with corporations like Facebook. That's one example. And Facebook has multiple companies, WhatsApp, Instagram. And I'm not trying to single out Facebook here, but they're an example of what's occurring. And Facebook and the administrative state, to an extent, like the FBI, the DHS, we already know about this, they were colluding in fascistic activity, and fascism is a neutral term. It just means corporations working with governments. We have that all the time, but historically and connotatively, that is a very negative emotion, a negative association, because typically you have corporations colluding or merging with government, and they usually enact their power against the will of the people, and the people are ultimately oppressed. So when you have situations like this, where they have a lot of power, they have a lot of resources, they have a lot of status, they're trying to control the populace to an extent, they have a certain status quo of how they want society to operate now and in the future. And then you have a bunch of people, well, not a bunch of people, you have a few people who are mavericks. They come in like Elon Musk, and they want to change the game. They still understand they have to fit within the parameters of culture and the society and structure that's built around them. But they want to change the game in a sense that, hey, we're going to have free speech. We're going to let people who are kicked off come back on. We're going to actually allow people to talk what they want to, say what they want to say. And yeah, there's going to be some cost to that. Like, there is a cost to free speech, but that cost is much less than the cost of not having free speech. Because if you don't have free speech, you ultimately have the government who has all the power, and you have fascistic activities, corporations and government, and then they decide who they want to prosecute, who they want to go after. They limit thought, they limit the advancement of society, because when you're freely thinking, there are going to be a lot of bad ideas. But I'll give an example. Let's say there are two people sitting down and they're discussing ideas. Now, there's a lot of BS ideas that will come out of that, but maybe one or two ideas will be really great ideas, and that is the start of a new type of innovation, or a new concept for a new show, or new technology, or a new way to run government, whatever it is. This is ultimately a threat to other corporations who are out there. This is ultimately a threat to the government that is out there, who wants to secure their position in the hierarchy. So if you have a new way of ruling the government, and that can be interpreted as sedition, well, the current government doesn't want you to talk about that. They don't want to hear that. They don't want that to be in the minds of people, because they ultimately know there's only if we're using Congress, 538, but if you're using all the people in government, at least the key power positions, a few hundred to a few thousand people, then you have the administrative state and bureaucracy, a few thousand people, maybe slightly more. And there's a few thousand of them, but there are millions of we the people. So if there's an idea and it spreads, like a pandemic, and it goes into people's minds, and it riles people up, and they now want to challenge the status quo, that's a threat. It's a threat to corporations. It's a threat to people in government. It's a threat to people who are behind government. It's a threat to the military industry. It's a threat to all of these different institutions around us who want to have a stronghold. They want to have their claws deep on society, and they don't want to let go because they're benefiting financially, ideologically. I mean, I'm talking about financially and in terms of status and power, but ideologically, that's the last step. There are people who are ideologues, and they want to implement their certain ideas, and they will use the distribution of media or big tech. And Twitter, or X, Elon Musk, is a threat to that. Because if you could have the free flow of information on X, I know there's a lot of bad stuff. There's adult content on X, even though you only need to be like 13 to sign up. I mean, really, you could be any age and sign up. But regardless, that's still free speech to have all that information out there. And parents should be supervising their kids nonetheless. But that information is on X. that is a threat. When other big tech companies can censor and suppress information, they can visibility filter, they can prevent the reach. A lot of what even Linda Yasserino, the CEO of Twitter, has even come out and said, you have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom of reach. So essentially, you're blocking what someone is saying. That's like putting a bubble around someone in a town square physically. So they can say what they want, but no one can hear it. So you're essentially removing free speech. So even the CEO of X, that's also an issue. I have a critique of Elon Musk even hiring her as a CEO. She's tied to the WEF. She loves censorship. This is not a profound person to put in that position. That's why I say Elon Musk is not truly free speech, whether he's coerced or not, whether he's trying to play the game or not, to actually push the Overton window of what is acceptable in the future. I don't know his game plan. We don't know what's in his head. All we can do is gather different perspectives and then use his actions to determine what he's actually doing and thinking. But regardless, when you have X, it is a threat because there's more free-flowing information that's on there that is not on Facebook or Instagram. Because on Facebook and Instagram, you can easily get censored. You can easily get blocked. And there are certain topics and discussions you cannot have on those platforms, even if it's like a private community. They will go in and they will cut it out. They will stop it. And partially that's algorithm. Partially there are people who are overseeing, supervisors, and they'll go in, or they're a trusted flagger or a fact checker, independent fact checker, which we already know that these third-party fact checkers are funded by another company, and that company is funded by the big company itself, which is going to have the independent fact checkers on their platform. So it's not really their independent fact checkers, and they don't verify their credibility anyways. So that's a big threat. Their plan has been working so far in a sense that advertisers, just companies, they have gone more towards the ESG route because there's an ideological leaning there, and with that ideology, there's money tied to it, like loans, subsidizations, all that kind of stuff. And so companies don't want to go on X, not because they don't think that they can make money from it, but there is more of a payout aligning themselves with the ideology of the status quo, again, like the ESG type of ideology, and they believe that will make them succeed more in the long term than going onto X and advertising on X. Of course, there are still advertisers on X, but what we need to ultimately do, if what Elon Musk is saying is true, where the ADL has contributed to a 50% decline in the company value, that really means that if the ADL wasn't there, advertisement revenue would be significantly up. See, right now, Elon Musk has to rely on memberships of Twitter Blue to actually sustain the platform. If that advertisement revenue came in, it would be substantially better. Now, I, again, have critiques of what Elon Musk wants to do. He wants to turn X into a payment processing platform. He wants to turn it into a full communication platform, which I'm all for that, encrypted messages, video chatting, all that kind of stuff. It's better than what we have right now because it's a competitor to other companies that are out there like WhatsApp. But over time, if there's too much consolidation of power onto X, that can also be a problem in the future. Accountability, that checks and balance system, it's really we the people against people who are running companies, against people behind government. That will always need to exist because you can have a company who's for free speech, who's for individual rights. When they gain so much power and they become an oligopoly or a monopoly, they will often abuse their power because, again, we're self-interested. You scale that to even companies. Companies are self-interested. So we have a situation here with Elon Musk. Hopefully, we see some kind of positive result where the ADL is able to, if they have to pay billions of dollars in damages, they'll be bankrupt. And maybe that's what needs to happen because they're not actually doing what their job is supposed to be doing, why they were founded in the first place, to go after defamatory actors. Instead, they're defaming themselves, like they're defaming other people themselves, and it's really stifling the advancement of society. Right now, what we need is more free speech, more expression, the good, the bad, the ugly. People need to go out and have discourse. We need to know we need to have more information out there. Let people discern for themselves what is accurate, what is not. This whole suppression of information, this whole oppressing the people and making sure that, like the whole idea of what these big companies tell people is we're blocking information for your own good. This information is harmful, and because it's harmful, because these ideas are harmful, we're going to prevent this idea from spreading to you so you can't even access the information. You need to let people access the information, judge for themselves, and then we get the free flowing of ideas, we get a better society. Again, I've already said there's a cost to this. Like there are costs to this. People can make up information. Now you have 3 different classifications of misinformation. Misinformation, the unintentional spread of wrongful information. Disinformation, the intentional spread of wrongful information. And malinformation, information that may be true, but it makes people feel bad or it creates hesitancy, right? So we have all these classifications because there are a lot of people who are for censorship. So I'll propose this to you. Let's say you're for censorship. whether that censorship is coming from an algorithm or a person. Now, there are people who create that algorithm. But nonetheless, there are people at the top, whether algorithm or not, who are making the decision on which speech to censor and which speech to allow. So if you as an individual are okay with censorship, you're allowing that responsibility, that power to be in someone else's hands. They are they are the arbitrators of truth. They are like gods. They are making the decision on your behalf to determine what is good and what is bad. So no matter what, you as an individual, you are censored. You don't have any control of that. But another individual is making that decision on your behalf. So you're giving them power that even you yourself don't have. That's a very dangerous situation. You have to this is why the best option is, and why it's the First Amendment, why this is so paramount as a fundamental principle, a founding principle in the United States, is you have to let all of the ideas out there in the world. It's actually better to have the crazy ideas out there because you can observe these people. If they're shunned and they're pushed back and they have to go underground, you don't really know what they're doing, how they're conversing. And then that's where the bad action comes from, if they actually commit to action. So when you commit to action, that's when you have an infringement of rights if it's going to harm other people. So you have to let all of this out in the open. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad, but the primary reason why we have this is to prevent government overreach. And what we have right now is government. More and more stories are coming out, and we already have conclusive evidence of this, but more and more information is coming out just how corrupt and compromised not just this administration, but all of the branches of government and the bureaucracy within the government, who is there for decades because they're unelected, working in tandem, in collusion with other major corporations, how much they're censoring and the detail of how much they're censoring. I mean, it's not just, hey, could you look out for this story? It's like they have their own portals. They're going into the specific platforms. They're giving stories. They're giving individuals names. So now individuals are being targeted. This is dystopian, this is authoritarian, and it's something we want to ultimately prevent. And how do you prevent this? You have to have more speech. And when you have the ADL and other institutions who are coming in and they recognize we need to shut down these other platforms who are allowing the free flow and speech of ideas, like X, they're doing everything they can to stop it. And so to counter it, we have to do everything we can to stop and reverse their action, because we actually want more free speech, more expression. And again, there's a cost to that, but that cost is much better than the cost of government having too much power over your life. I'm introducing Constitutes Plus. This is a place where you can access exclusive content. The links are going to be in the description. This is going to be me, of course, investigative journalism, hard-hitting stories, even stories that we can't talk about anywhere else. It's at an affordable price. If you cannot afford the price, don't even worry about it. I'm going to post free content all the time. But this is a place where if you want to support or if you want to grow and expand our platform, what we're doing here, you're going to get new topics, new videos every single week. And the goal is to, with enough audience and capital, expand what we're doing with other creators where they can also come on and share their truth, their content. And of course, this is all based on the reality of the world, not some delusional reality that we now live in.